From across time and space and throughout the multiverse, listen as two generations of comic book readers come together to discuss a single character or event that shaped pop culture as we know it. Let Your Geek Side Show presents Then and Now with Susan and Kitty. Hey, this is Susan.
And this is Kitty.
And today we explore the unknown. Well, maybe not entirely unknown, but it is a world of dragons, and who doesn't love discussing them? Take a listen as we dive into the lore of Berk, Hiccup, and his dragon. You guessed it. This is Toothless, Then and Now.
So How to Train Your Dragon.
I know, we both started talking at the same time because I'm so excited for this podcast.
I think a lot of people are, I hope people are surprised and learn things from this podcast, but I'm sure some people are well aware. But I think some people will be surprised to learn that the franchise is much bigger than the movie trilogy.
Yeah, and the thing is that what's interesting about this is that I was a little too old for the children's books. Mm-hmm. So that's going to fall onto you a little bit. So we're kind of flipping up the then and now, but it's a little bit of a mixed bag since I've watched a lot of the cartoons.
Yeah.
And then you haven't watched you've watched some.
Yeah, I watched some of them. But full disclosure, this is spoiler free for the movie for How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Because we are recording this in the past and we don't have time travel abilities
yet.
And I personally, I'll talk about the book series. The book series did end in 2015, so I do not know if any instance in the book series will have any pertinence to the final movie.
Right. So if you stumble upon a spoiler, you didn't know it was a spoiler when we recorded.
So and I'll try to stay away from the end of the book series. Right. But so full disclosure, you can listen to this movie and just reminisce with us about the trilogy and
podcast. What? You said listen to the movie, and I was like,
oh,
podcast.
Sorry. Listen to the podcast, reminisce about the movies, and then learn a little bit more about the franchise headed into that final trilogy capper.
Awesome. So since you're the then this time, would you like to start with, because I know the only reason I know that How to Train Your Dragon is a book series is because when I finished watching the movie, during the credits, it says based on a book series. And then I saw that, and then, of course, I looked it up and saw that they were like very children's books.
Yes.
And decided maybe not to read them.
Yeah, and they were, they were coming out kind of where I was out of that reading grade already. Like not to toot my own horn or anything, but I was out of that reading grade.
You're really smart. You should own it.
But I had access to the school library and was like, hell yeah, I'm just going to read these. So the book series is the first one is How to Train Your Dragon. It is by British author Cressida Cowell. It began in 2003, and then the series ended in 2015. So it's also interesting that books were coming out before the movie. The movie came out, and then books came out after the movie. So it's interesting to see the symbiosis and then where the DreamWorks stuff took away from that and adapted and modified. So consistently, the books are written kind of in the perspective viewpoint of Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III, who is Hiccup Haddock Horrible III. I think they changed his name in one of the things.
Oh no, I think that it's horrendous in the. I think you got it right because in the movie, I'm pretty sure it's
Horrendous.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's
Haddock III.
Yes, and so clearly that's one of the differences is that his name is Hiccup Haddock Horrible III.
Yes. And one of the things
many H's.
One of the things we're going to get into about the book series is the names, and it's how you can tell they're made for kids.
Yeah.
So the series is about this is in capital letters, his journey to becoming a hero the hard way. So it's,
oh my gosh.
So it deals a lot with the dragons, but there's a lot going on. You kind of cover a lot of the life of this kid. And so in the first book, How to Train Your Dragon, he's tasked with capturing a dragon, but here's where we depart from the film, because it's the rite of passage on Berk to train and have a dragon companion.
Oh, so it is very different.
And so if he fails to capture a dragon and train it to be his companion, he's going to be exiled from Berk.
Oh, and that's bad.
So it's slightly different. And the dragon he catches is, of course, still Toothless, but Toothless is very, very different from the movies. So in the books...
So I just have to ask.
Yeah?
So you're saying he's not a cat in the movie? I mean, in the books.
Well, not really. He's kind of like he's
very much a cat in the movie.
Oh, yes. But in the books, he's kind of, first of all, because he's a dragon, yes, but he's more like a little pet lizard. but it's like a little one because
So he's
like
little. He's like teeny.
He's a tiny dragon. So if you remember in the movies,
There's
oh my
the
God, the
scene
little
when-
ones. What are the little ones called? The
I don't
terrible
know,
somethings.
But when they're it's like that scene where he's on the cliff with Toothless, and they're like, like curled up, and then the little dragons walk up and put their heads on Hiccup. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, basically those. So
that size?
He's very little. What are those little ones called though?
I don't remember.
Oh, it's like terrible somethings.
I'm really bad at the dragons names besides Night Fury.
One thing this franchise has going for it is insane names. So yes, so Toothless is a small, pretty underwhelming little green dragon that they think is just a common garden dragon. So the Isle of Berk, they're all kind of used to dragons. So now one of the interesting twists is the monstrous nightmare, which is the one that belongs to Snotlout in the movie, is also the one that belongs to Snotlout in the books. But technically, the monstrous nightmare is supposed to be the birthright of the chieftain's son. So that's the dragon that Hiccup was supposed to have in the books, but he didn't because he failed, and he's got this tiny little lizard dragon. So I think that was interesting that they kept some of the dragon breeds. And it is a lot more, like the dragons are a more common acceptance in the books.
And it sounds like there are certain dragons that are like that mean certain things in the books. I mean, they do mean something in the movies, but it's a little bit, it's not like you're supposed to have that dragon or like that type. It's like corgis are for the royal family.
Right.
It's stuff like that.
Yeah, and so the monstrous nightmares are for the Viking family on Berk. Now, I don't want to just steamroll through the whole premise of the series. So do we want to start peppering in some, because we've already got places where it's like you can see where that's the same, but you can also see where it's very different.
Because I think that one of the things that I can see, again, having not ever read any of the books, is like something very different is that they're told so many times how like the dragons are bad, and they actively like fight the dragons in the movies. And the only reason that he even interacts with Toothless at all is because Toothless hurts himself, and he's supposed to just go kill the dragon and just like have it be done with it, but instead he can't do it, and feeds it, and then it becomes like his pet, and that's like not supposed to happen.
I think that's an interesting distinction that helped the movie narrative. But the distinction that the rite of passage in the movies is to have no compassion and be a killer. And then the rite of passage in the books is just to be a competent Viking with this particular set of skills. I mean, I have a very particular set of skills. But to show dominance over... I wanted to finish it with the John Mulaney quote, show dominance over your puppy. But basically, that's what it is.
These are things people say to me.
That's what it is. It's to be a successful Viking, you have to show that you're dominant over the land and sea and even the skies with the dragons.
And then this was more like a, show that you can be a leader by making the tough decision and killing this dragon, But instead, Hiccup is kind of ostracized for befriending Toothless instead of killing him. Like, you had the opportunity to kill the scariest and greatest of all dragons, and yet you did what? You made him your friend?
And so in the books, he would have been ostracized had he not done that.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting because I think also for child morality would have been much harder to explain. This kid has to kill a dragon if he wants to be seen as successful.
Yeah, and then I also think though, because this movie, while it is like a movie for adults, like kids could watch this movie.
Oh yeah.
But I think that it's harder to show that element that you're talking about, like being master of the land and the sea and the sky is harder to show in a movie, and a movie's such a visual medium that you need to be like, okay, well, what's like the simplest way that we can get to the part where they're training the dragon, because that's how to train your dragon, So it's like, well, kill. Like, that's the thing.
And and like in the movie, it's also like not only kill but subjugate and learn how to fight against their particular the fire and the quills and the whatever in that little arena.
This is war and we're going to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
But then it turns out like I just love that moment. We already talked about the scene. I wanted to bring it up. The scene where they're just sitting on that cliff. They've gone flying that day, and they're sitting on the cliff, and the little baby dragons or the little tiny dragons come up, and they just put their head on Hiccup's lap, and he's just like, you guys are just like us.
Yeah.
Like it's...
So how do the animated series continue? Because the animated series take place between the movies?
Between the movies.
Okay.
They definitely take place between the movies. I'm I'm not really...
They're called Terrible Terrors.
Okay, cool. I'm not really sure the timeline on the series. I just know that they have to take place post the first movie. So in terms of where they take place, in terms of like, it's either between the second movie, during the second movie, or after the second movie. So the first movie has occurred already because they've
trained the dragons.
They've trained the dragons. They're racing dragons. The dragons are definitely like integrated into their culture. So obviously it's post first movie.
And the racing comes up in the beginning of the second movie, so maybe it's a little bit before.
It could be a little bit before the second movie. That's one of the series, but there was the series on Cartoon Network and then the series on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
So there are two different series.
Oh my goodness.
And then also there was a series of shorts, which you can go find, but I actually haven't watched the series of shorts. But most of them are about the same theme. Like they're a little bit watered down because they're for children to watch like on Saturday morning and things like that. So they definitely have like lessons, but all the lessons surround companionship, fairness, cooperation, things like that. But they do have the same characters, and you have Hiccup. You see more of Hiccup's journey towards becoming the leader that while, we have not seen the hidden world yet, there is a lot of stuff in the trailer that implies that Hiccup is now to become the leader of the tribe. And in the second movie, we know what happens there. But it's more and more of Hiccup's journey. It's excuse me, I didn't drink enough water, I guess, before talking this much. My voice is cracking. But Hiccup. It's about him, and definitely the relationship between him and the friends, and how they're definitely going to become the next leaders of Berk, and how does one step up into that role. And they're the first generation to live side by side with the dragons as companions, as opposed to the old way. And while all the parents have like kind of think this dragon thing's pretty cool and also have dragons themselves, these are the first leaders who will be also like dragon riders. So it's kind of a cool thing as they realize that. And then obviously the end of the second movie with everything that happened. Could we just say it?
Yeah, we can say that. We can say
that Hiccup's dad dies.
But we get the reintroduction to his mother, who is another important figure. And I think that's really cool. And it's not a thing we get to see rarely in movies, where the whole first movie, it's like, oh, your mom's missing, and we're very sorry about that, but like you have to be raised by your father and be a man and da-da-da. But then the idea that not only is his mother still alive, but now
he has to know her.
Yeah, and then end of the second movie, and then presumably going into the third movie. I know she's in the trailers. Just having that relationship and that closeness, and not even realizing that they were more alike than they thought.
Yeah. Which is kind of the whole theme. I think that the theme of these, regardless of it, it's the movie, the TV show, and it sounds like even from the books, from what you've said, that the theme of this is to keep an open mind, because things are definitely not what you think that they are.
And we are more alike than you would think if you get to know your mother or your dragon.
Or even him and his dad.
I got a new title idea. Get to know your dragon. Get to know your mother. Get to know
Because even like when you look at Hiccup and his relationship with his father, like they have good hearts. Yeah. And Hiccup can be a leader because of his dad's, like his dad always led with a good heart but a firm hand, and Hiccup might not have that firm hand, but he still has a good heart.
Yeah.
So you are more alike in this way, and people can find similarities regardless of the boundaries that come between them. To me, that was always the theme, is like, these dragons aren't what we think. This isn't what we thought. Yeah.
And so jumping back to the books, I didn't read through the whole series because, as I said, I was a little older than the reading grade. And then as more books came out, I didn't keep tabs on them. But a lot of the characters carry over. So we've got Snotlout, who's kind of the bully, and then Fishlegs, the buddy, and then Gobber the Belch, who helps make weapons and stuff, and then Stoic the Vast, who is Hiccup's father. But especially in those younger, or the first books, there's a lot more humor. And then it's interesting because they treat the female characters differently, because his mom is still in the books. Her name is Valhalla Rama, which is, but and this will get a few chuckles because this is for kids. There's a a rival but also partner tribe called the Bog Burglars, and they are a matriarchal society. And so Hiccups, so the Astrid character in the books is a young girl named Kamikaze, and her,
oh my God.
and this is where it gets funny. Her mother's name is Big Boobied Bertha, and so it's a sillier
Vikings.
Yeah, it's Vikings, and so it's a sillier idea of like we are the big strong
big booby burka.
Yeah, like the big Norwegian women.
Yeah.
And so it's treated a little differently. And then Kamikaze has I think her dragon is still named Stormfly, but it's a mood dragon, which changes colors depending on its mood. So but it's really funny.
I want that dragon.
So it's a more feeling and intuitive dragon. But she is like a tomboyish character. So it does depart from Astrid. She's a little kind of more like Rough Nut.
Oh,
from
okay.
A little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I don't believe Rough Nut and Tough Nut were in the books. But you get those characters, and then there's even like funnier. There's one guy who's like the Viking hero, and his name is Humongously Hotshot the Hero.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just it's funny because you get all these names and identifiers. One of the other bullies is named Dog's Breath, the Duh Brain. And so it is a lot sillier and a little less reverent than the movies. And I think, by necessity, again, children's series, but I really like how they downplayed some of those elements to get more of the heart.
Yeah.
That does come in the later books of the How to Train Your Dragon series. But my favorite characters are the twins. I love Hiccup and Toothless, yes, but I love the twins and their two-headed dragon. Like that is.
God.
That's my favorite.
Oh, really? My favorite's Toothless. I also love Astrid. Like I love her.
And Stormfly.
Yeah.
That's a really cool one.
No, I like in the trailer when she's like, "Oh, it's a bright light fury." Yeah, yours is better.
Yeah, yours is better.
Yeah. And then Toothless doing like wah.
Wah. Oh my gosh.
I can't wait for that
dragon
movie.
mating dance. Because I love those nature documentaries where you get all the ridiculous birds and all the little dances.
Oh, that's totally what I thought.
And so all of the different animals they've incorporated in the DreamWorks edition with Toothless.
Oh yeah, because obviously like he's very, very much a cat when you first meet him.
Yes.
He's like he won't let you approach him, and if anybody's ever tried to like make a cat friend in their neighborhood, everyone knows that the best way to do it is
Sorry, I just like for me it's stick your hand out and you're like, please love me, please love me.
Well, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to not look at them, like leave food or treat, but stay by it, so that way they associate your scent with the food or the treat. But you're not supposed to look at them, and that's exactly how Hiccup deals with Toothless. Like he puts the fish down and he like stays there and he kind of like crouches but doesn't look at Toothless while he eats. Toothless eats.
That is how I also like to make friends, is don't look at me but please bring me food.
Yeah, that's how we all make friends. I feel like this should be like a new thing. Treat everyone like they're a cat
or a dragon.
Yeah, or a dragon. Bring them food and then just make them associate you with the food. And that's also how you get raccoons.
Oh, well then, this is
such an informative podcast.
How to train your new best friend, how to train your raccoons, how to train your dragons, how to train your neighborhood cats.
Yeah, but the point of this little rant was that you're right. Like they did incorporate so many different animals and because if you watch Planet Earth or any other popular nature documentary, you see, the birds that like fly out their little wings and they have lots of different colors that you didn't know they had, and then they bounce around and they're like, hey, check out my wings. And that's what Toothless is doing to his light fury.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
It's just, it's interesting to see the way that this series has evolved. And I'm positive that it'll still have a life after the Hidden World movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's been comics and there've been these cartoons, but in a way also I'm excited because it is such a rare treat that you actually get like a definitive trilogy conclusion and they're like, that's it, we're good.
Yeah.
We can, and they can still continue to do that extra content.
Life. Yeah, there's more life to it.
But the film the film trilogy will tell a complete story.
Right. And then the books did tell a complete story as far as
Yes, the book series is finished. And I won't say anything about the specifics of the end of the series because I did look those up just to see what happens. But I don't know if they actually correlate to the end of the movies. But second to last book, you actually find out that Toothless has a better draconic heritage than... So you do get the the Night Fury thing is really consistent throughout the movies.
Right.
But in the books, they're always trying to figure out, and it's cute because Fish Legs actually comes up with, well, maybe Toothless isn't a garden dragon. Maybe he's a cousin of the monstrous nightmare that's called the Toothless Daydream. He's like, oh, maybe it's like, it's something that Hiccup is meant to have as the future leader. But you do find out that, and this is a hard one to say, Toothless is actually a young sea dragoness, Giganticus Maximus, again with the funny names.
Yeah.
So he is destined to become like a behemoth sea monster dragon, more along the styles of
like King Dragon.
the King Dragon. Yeah, the King Dragon in the first or second one, because the was it the Red Death in the first movie or the Purple Black Death or something, like it was some colored death.
I thought that was in the second movie.
I don't remember which one.
No,
Anyways,
no, the first movie. Oh, okay.
What
it was in one of the movies.
It was in one of the movies. But one of the colored death, those actually all factor into the first book. There's like a purple death and a green death and stuff, and they all kind of fight and stuff.
Oh, that is in the first.
Yes.
Yeah, that is in the first.
Because I know what you're talking about. The second one with the big horns,
uh-huh.
but that's a slightly different.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can't. I think they've published at least additional material that has all like the nomenclature for the dragons.
Aww.
But so you find out that in the books, kind of late in the game, that Toothless does have an important draconic heritage, and so even though they've become close friends and everyone just thought he was kind of like a little house pest, basically like a house pest style dragon, he does have a bigger role to play. And ultimately, the arc of the series, you go through a lot of books. The first one is How to Train Your Dragon, and the second one is How to Be a Pirate, so you get a little bit different. And then the naming style of the books becomes How to X a Dragon's Y, and that sounds terrible, but it's like how to steal, how to seize a dragon's jewel, how to ride a dragon's storm, like all these things, and it becomes about the learning about the different aspects of dragon life.
Oh wow!
As they coexist with the Berkians, the Berkites. I don't know what they're called.
The Berkas.
But again, the trajectory of the series is ultimately finding peace in the world with dragons, whether that means the dragons and humans have to go their separate ways or remain, the societies help each other out. It is ultimately attain peace with the dragons, deal with those big scary dragons that don't want to be part of the fun, and so that's what Hiccup eventually is able to achieve when he becomes the tribe leader in the book series, which is it's just a fun, nice little series, and of course I just remember the very silly ones that I read, but it's cool, and I'm curious to know, and I don't have a definitive statement, how much the movie affected the book affected the movie when they started coming out simultaneously.
Totally. So it sounds like, because you're kind of covering the then, Kitty.
Yeah.
Like the then is maybe take a look at some of the books.
Yeah, or if they're not for you, then definitely
watch the movie.
Watch the movie. I mean, watch the movies.
Watch the movies.
But if you have a kid or someone younger in your life who you think could maybe like benefit from those books, like that would be
maybe
fun.
Next Comic-Con when I'm like, hey, Kitty, can you read me a bedtime story? You'll be like, actually, I brought How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh my God, reading bedtime stories at Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's a thing that happens, people out there listening. Anyway.
But those are definitely, whether or not you do choose to read them, because I mean, I can recommend them, but and you can probably breeze through them in like an hour as an adult. You're like, look at me, I'm above this reading grade. I feel so smart. It's just cool to know at least where the series kind of got its inspiration, but then DreamWorks took it and really enhanced.
They took off flying.
They took off flying, and they really enhanced the richness of the emotional themes of the story as you do in a beautifully animated movie.
I love it. So for the now, watch the movies, catch up on them if you would like. There is the Dragons of Berk Race to the Edge. That's on Netflix, and then the Cartoon Network series that I think streams also on Netflix, but I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember where it is right now.
Well, now we're gonna have to go check that out.
And then obviously go see How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World that comes out in is it gonna be? No, it comes out this week.
It'll be out the week. Yeah, it'll be out this week.
This week.
This one airs.
Yeah, very cool.
We're going to go see it and cry.
We're going to see it and cry. All the things. So yay, Toothless. From books to movies and streaming cartoons, Toothless and the Dragons of Berk have bonded not only with their writers, but with our minds and hearts. Are they misunderstood? Possibly. But aren't we all? The ability to bridge the gap between what we think we know and what is true is what ultimately we take away from these stories. We cannot wait to see the hidden world, because this has been Toothless, Then and Now. Do you enjoy listening to Then and Now? We are proud to bring you pop culture content completely ad-free, but that doesn't mean we don't need your support to help us keep going. Please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform and help spread the word about our podcast. We welcome fan feedback. Email us at podcast@sideshow.com with your thoughts and suggestions for how we can make our shows even better. Please tune in for our other pop culture podcasts. See if your fan favorites make the cut in the Geek Culture Countdown, a bi-weekly podcast featuring pop culture top 10 lists. Hear exclusive interviews with celebrities and pop culture industry leaders as they let their geek side show in Look Who Showed Up. Then get all the latest pop culture news with our daily briefing, a 2-minute breakdown of the biggest geek headlines perfect for your Alexa or Google News briefings. We wouldn't exist without your continued support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to let your geek side show.